Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk all about my biggest hacks for how to get higher engagement on your Instagram Reels. So if you're sharing Reels and you're not seeing the, maybe likes and comments and saves and shares and all of those things on your Reels, this video is going to specifically help you with how to increase your engagement for the amount of views that you might be getting on your Instagram Reels. And before we dive in, I do want to let you know that I actually have a free on-demand class called How to Grow Your Reach, Followers, and Customers with Reels. So if that sounds good to you and you would like to learn about that, the link will be right down below in the description. And now let's go ahead and jump into the video. So before I dive into the three main hacks that I want to share in this video, there's a few things I want us to keep in mind. So I want us to think about what actually helps a reel to get more engagement. Like, what are some baseline things that we all need to know when we're trying to come up with reels or create our reels in a way that is going to increase engagement on those reels and just within our account in general. So the first thing that I like to think about is making reels that are actually engaging, right? That are actually entertaining to watch, that hook people's attention, that have a really good a hook at the very beginning that grabs their attention, keeps it. It's very fast paced. There's not any lulls or gaps in the video. And this can also be in the context of, how fast paced your video is, or when text pops up on the screen and things like that, and making sure we're keeping it fast paced and we're keeping their attention. We have very short attention spans, especially when it comes to reels. I think I read somewhere it was something around so we have 6 seconds of someone's attention on average, and it's probably even shorter than that with reels. Even think about yourself when you are on reels and you're scrolling, what makes you stick around and keep watching a reel, right? What makes it actually engaging? And so another thing I want to mention here too is creating reels that actually create connection and community. And this goes beyond just the number of likes and comments, right, that you're getting, but making sure that you're creating reels that naturally would lead someone to want to leave a comment or to want to even go along and follow you, right? And so thinking about those things, keeping these things in mind, let's dive into the 3 hacks that I think, are going to make a big difference in how, little tweaks we can make to our Instagram Reels. The first one might seem like, Stephanie, why are you even talking about this first? But I think it's really, really important that we address this first before the other two. And it's to make sure that your reels just make sense for your target audience. It doesn't do any good to be posting reels that have absolutely nothing to do with your account. I mean, they can be a great way to build connection with your audience, and posting a funny reel here and there is nothing, there's nothing wrong with it. But overall, your reels strategy, if you're trying to grow your brand, needs to make sense for your account. Those reels need to just make sense. If someone comes across a reel and they don't follow you and then they go to your account, it needs to make sense that you share that reel, right? If you want to use it to grow your following, it needs to relate to the other content that you share, the way you show up in the world, all of those different things. So really, this is going back to putting yourself in their shoes, right? So thinking about if they're just scrolling on reels, right? Reels are for non-followers typically, especially when reels are being pushed outside of your own audience. So put yourself in their shoes. What would make them want to engage with your reel? What would make them, when they engage with your reel and they go to your account, does it just make sense? With what you offer, with what your brand is all about, right? This means, you might also need to narrow down and pick a niche, right? And when we talk about this, so it's really important to keep that in mind and making sure that we have a specific niche or a specific type of person or audience that we are trying to attract, right? And something that our account is all about, and that the majority of our reels just make sense, right? And okay, so basically now let's jump into hack number 2, and that is to keep your reels engaging. And I kind of alluded to this earlier, but I want to dive deeper into this and what are some things tweaks you can make that can actually make a difference. So when we're talking about how to get more engagement, right? This might seem obvious. You're like, okay, of course, I want to make my reels more engaging. So the first way is don't keep the same text boxes on the screen for more than maybe 4, maybe 5 seconds max. And a lot of times when I have a text box that pops up on the screen, I don't want more than 1 sentence. And I don't want it to be this huge paragraph they have to read, right? And I want to break up that paragraph instead into multiple text boxes that are popping up on the screen every 3 seconds or so. And doing that that is really gonna help to keep their attention longer, right? So just think about those reels where maybe you're adding text boxes to add context or things like that. Unless it's a really short reel where maybe it's like a lip sync that's like under 10 seconds. If it's something that's longer than that, like maybe you're doing a face to camera reel, or it is a longer reel where you are explaining something, you wanna make sure that you keep it engaging by not having the same text box up for super, super long, right? Make your text easy to read and make it fast to read. So I like to think about this too, make sure you're being aware of the fonts you're choosing, the colors you're choosing. I always like to make sure I add like the background color to my text when I'm adding on Reels. Make sure it's within the middle, like third or middle half of your reel, right? Because if someone's viewing the reel outside of the Reels Explore tab, like if they follow you, they're not gonna see text that's on the very, very tippity top or on the very bottom. So just make sure that you're making it easy to read. It's like mostly in the center of your reel, right? Another thing that I want to mention here when it comes to keeping a reel engaging is to keep it flowing and keep it moving quickly. And what I mean by this is don't have it essentially take a while to move on to the next part of the reel or the next thing that you say in your reel or the next text box that pops up, and make sure that there's essentially not an opportunity for someone to potentially scroll out just because they're sitting there forever waiting for the next thing to pop up, right? So even think about yourself. Again, put yourself in their shoes. When you're scrolling on Reels, what makes you just keep on scrolling by and not even look at a reel? I know for me, one of the biggest things is if I am watching a reel and maybe they have a text box with like 4 or 5 words and it's on the screen for like 10 seconds. I am not gonna stick around for 10 seconds to wait for the next text box to pop up or see what else that they have to say, right? And so you wanna make sure that it flows well, that it's moving on to one part to the other. I very rarely see reels that move too quickly, but I very often see reels that don't move quickly enough. And I think that can be a huge way that you are losing people that are viewing your reels, right? So once you get that view, for them sticking around and watching the whole thing or even engaging with your content and just scrolling on, is that your reel isn't moving quickly enough, okay? Another hack that I want to jump into here is to create community within your reels. And so what I mean by this is, I mean a few different things. So the first thing is, more specifically, more practically, adding call to actions within your reels and in your captions to create engagement. So you've probably, if you've learned anything about Instagram and what people talk about when it comes to helping your Instagram engagement, having great call to actions within like your posts and your reels can be a huge way to boost engagement, right? So even something as simple as tap the like button if you loved this reel, or comment below with your favorite blah, 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 or comment below with what you thought, or something along those lines. That can be a huge way to create engagement. You can also ask people to save your post if it makes sense. Like maybe it's a reel where you're giving a bunch of tips, or maybe it's a reel that they would find super relatable, they could share with someone else. Like give that call to action. A lot of times people don't even remember to go and like a reel, right? So if we're reminding them to do that, it's gonna help to boost the engagement on our reels. And if you're wondering exactly like where to put these call to actions, I love putting them either just in the caption, like maybe the whole caption is just 1 or 2 sentences with the call to action. I think that's the cool thing about reels, is that you don't have to create this super long caption like a lot of people like to do with Instagram posts. And yeah, so one thing that I would say, put it in the caption, and it can just be your caption if you can't think of anything else that you need to elaborate on or anything else in the caption. You can also add call to actions directly within your reel, okay? So maybe the last like 3 or 4 seconds of your reel, whether it's like you talking face to camera or something like that. I will do this a lot, even if I have other text boxes, like maybe it was rotating through different text boxes on the screen. I will just add another text box below it, like at that last 3 or 4 seconds, saying like, follow me for more information like this, or follow me if you loved this video. And those do really well too, at least in helping to not only increase engagement, but to grow my following, because especially if it's a reel that was very targeted for my certain brand, it's going to help grow my account with people who actually find that content is interesting, okay? So yeah, so you can add these call to actions like in your caption, right? Or within the reel itself. Both of those can be super impactful in just helping to naturally create that community. And another thing I wanna throw in here under creating community is responding to your people, right? And so one thing I want to mention is, and if you've stuck around to this long in the video, then this is probably the best tip I'm actually gonna share in this video. So tune back in. I truly believe, like, if you are wanting to grow on Instagram, if you're wanting to grow your brand with Instagram, if that is something that is a priority to you right now, you need to be making community growing a priority within your Instagram strategy. And what I mean by that is essentially, make sure you're responding back to comments. Like, when they take the time to respond to your call to action and to comment on your reel, make sure that you're responding back to that, right? Or if someone messages you and DMs you about something or replies to your stories, like, this doesn't even just apply to reels, but any type of content you're sharing on Instagram, respond back to your people. Like, people don't want to feel like they're talking to a brick wall or to a brand that's never going to show up and respond back to them, especially if you have a personal brand or a brand where you are the face of your company, right? And so doing this is not only going to help you just create that strong community, right? Because having a bunch of likes, having a bunch of followers doesn't do any good unless they're actually interested in you, right? And interested in what you might have to offer them, right? And to make their life easier. But it's gonna help to improve the engagement on your future reels. And here's what I mean by that. Because if people know that you actually respond back to comments, you actually respond back to their DMs, they're going to not only see your content more in their feed, right? Because they're actually interacting with your content. Because they know that you're going to respond to them, they're going to be more likely to interact with your content, which it means likes, comments, saves, shares, all of those things. And if they're more likely to interact, Instagram's gonna show them your content more. It's only gonna help boost your own engagement. It's gonna build that loyal following of people who absolutely love what you're doing. And a huge way that Reels works is it gets pushed out to your current audience first, right? So the people that are currently following you, if you push to share to your feed, it's gonna show it to them first. And then based on how it does with your followers, typically this is just what I have seen, it will then decide, okay, do we wanna push this reel out to people outside of their current following, right? And if it does really well within your own community, you have a lot higher chance of it being pushed out to people outside of your community and growing your following in that way, right? And so in a really roundabout way, that really does make a lot of sense, right? By just responding back to your people, showing up for them, like, truly, if growing on Instagram is important to you, and it's okay if that's not important, right? If you are someone who wants to show up on Instagram, but growing this following or growing your business like mainly through Instagram is not important, that's okay. But I do think that there's a ton of potential to still be growing on Instagram, especially with Reels right now, which is super cool. So I hope that you guys found all of this super helpful. Again, if you haven't signed up for that free class on Reels, and if you want to dive even deeper on how to grow your following, reach, and customers with Reels, that's what the class is all about. It's just an hour of your time completely free, and we would love to have you sign up and tune in. And I also wanted to mention, especially for those of you who follow along with my YouTube channel and who love like learning from me and are already subscribed, but even those who aren't already, which if you haven't subscribed yet, you totally should subscribe. But I do have a free Facebook community. So this is outside of those who are in my Reels mini course. It's, completely free, and you can join at the link below as well. We're gonna put a link right below this video. It's called Reels Growth, and you are able to, connect with others who are also trying to grow on Instagram Reels, have your questions answered. I'm active in the group as well. So I would love to connect with you there, especially if you're someone who has followed along for a while and you would love to connect with me somewhere else. But again, even if you haven't followed along and you just now found this video, feel free to join too, because we would absolutely love to see you there. And thank you guys for hanging out. I hope that you loved this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.